Hello dear friends, this is going to be a long one. I suggest you get a drink, get comfy. I was supposed to avoid long wrap-ups by going back to weekly wrap-ups. I don't know what is wrong with me.
Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to the weekly book steep where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. I think my camera is on a weird angle but I can't be bothered fixing it, so we're just going to deal with it. I do have my tea today. It's still hot. I do have the air conditioner on. I didn't film making the tea because I'm running really behind this morning because it's the first weekend after going back to work, and that is always an interesting experience. Oh, hot. Okay, we need to let that cool down. It is Kakadu Sunset by Black Brews, which is the Indigenous tea company that I've talked a lot about on this channel. It is a blend of Arakai black tea, Daintree cacao, Australian desert finger lime, safflower, calendula cornflower petals, and Kakadu plum extract. It helps if you don't tear the packaging in half. Alrighty, this is my reading week from the 24th until the 31st of January. I just decided to extend it out to the end of the month because then it just feels complete that way. I read a lot of things this week. I read 18 things. So I'm going to try and be as brief and succinct as I can so that we're not here forever because one, I forgot to charge my battery and my spare battery, so we are on limited battery life, and I have quite a lot of things to talk about and quite a few videos to film today. So I read a total of 5,122 pages, which includes a lot of audiobooks this week. I had 6 rereads, all of them audiobooks, 1 DNF, and I did read 4 books for projects. But I am going to talk about a couple of those books because I'm not quite sure the project is actually ever going to be uploaded on my channel. We also have a few kids review titles, so I'm going to get those out of the way first and then we're going to talk about the rest of the books. The first book that I have is Bun by Hana, Kinoshita, Thomson. This was sent to me by Alan and Unwin. In fact, all of these review titles are from Alan and Unwin, so thank you very much to them. This is about Bun, who is a rabbit. She loves to garden and she loves to visit with her friends, and she decides to plan a surprise for her friends. It is the process of her setting out to collect all of the ingredients for a recipe that she is planning on making, and then inviting everyone over for a slice of carrot cake. It is a really delightful book. It is full of beautiful, gorgeous illustrations. It is an early childhood text, so it's definitely for younger readers, but it is very sweet, it's very fun and very cute, and I can't wait to read this one to my niece. There is Pink Easter by Tanya Hennessy and illustrated by Sophie Kent. I struggled to find where the illustrator's name was just then. This is the story of the Easter Bunny, who is not necessarily used to accepting help from her friends around this time of the year, but she does this time. And our poor Easter Bunny is very, very stressed because she's got a lot of work to do, but her friends decide to pitch in and help. And unintentionally, Easter ends up very pink this year, but it's such a success that by the end of the book, they decide that they're going to have a theme every year. And it's really fun. It's very cute. Gorgeous illustrations. I'm a fan of all things pink, so this just makes me very, very happy. It's a great book to talk about, well, not only about Easter for those who celebrate, but also accepting help from friends and knowing that it's okay if things don't go exactly the way that you planned it down to the detail, because there is a bigger, wider message, and that sometimes doing things for other people is enough. So loved that. And then there is a narrative nonfiction text, Saving Shark Pup by Sharon, Dalgleish and Amandine Thomas. This is based on the true story of a great white shark pup that washes up onto the shore, and how the community goes about saving the shark and then returning it to its natural habitat. Not only does this book tell the story, it also includes facts about great white sharks, which, you know, are dangerous and scary, but also very, very misunderstood animals. So you have the narrative text in black and then some information text down the bottom. And I didn't actually know about this event that happened, but reading the story, it was great. It was great, and I think it does really open up a great conversation for younger readers about the wildlife in Australia especially, and how to be safe on our beaches, but also how to be kind and compassionate to creatures that we probably just don't understand very well. And then the last new release that is coming out this week that I received is Missing at Sea, which is book 2 in the Pirate Academy by Justin Somper. I read the first book of this last year, and this is a fantasy world where there is an academy for kids to go to learn to be pirates. All of the kids that attend there come from pirate families. Pirating is a way of life. And in the first book, we discover that there is a separatist group that has broken from everyone else and has decided that they no longer like the pirate rules that everyone else plays by, and they want to return to some more traditional pirate rules for society, which is a bit of a problem because that means we have 2 adult pirate groups clashing and the kids getting in the middle. So we're following Jasmine, Jacoby and Neo, And in this case, their class is set to participate in their first solo sailing challenge, which means they're in small crews, they have their own ship, they are sailing around near their academy, finding clues, solving problems. It's a challenge because prior to this, they always have to be accompanied by an adult. Jacoby is really excited because he knows he's going to be picked as captain of one of the ships, except he's not, so he's dealing with that disappointment and how to face that disappointment when one of his best friends, Jasmine, is chosen as the captain. So there's some really great room in here to have a conversation around entitlement, around jealousy, around recognizing that there might be a reason why someone else is chosen for a task and that perhaps your strengths lie elsewhere as well. So there was some really interesting conversations. Also just really good for talking about friendship and how you navigate tricky situations like that as a friend. The three of these characters also get caught up in a plot where the rebel pirate group, so to speak, are basically trying to capture Jasmine because she has family connections to the group that she's not overly thrilled with. There is danger, there's adventure, there is, you know, almost a countdown really because there's only so long they have to complete the challenge. They make some new allies, we meet some new enemies in this book, and it was a really fun adventure story for middle fiction readers. Then I had a whole bunch of rereads, so 6 of them, all of them by Ilona Andrews, all of them graphic audios. Wildfire came out on graphic audio, so I reread Wildfire, which is the 3rd book in the Hidden Legacy series. Then you might remember at the earlier in the month, I listened to Clean Sweep, which is the 1st book in the Innkeeper Chronicles. I decided to go and listen to the rest of the series, which is Sweep in Peace, One Fell Sweep, Sweep of the Blade, Sweep with Me, and Sweep of the Heart. I don't regret my life choices. One of these books I put on at 6 o'clock in the morning because I had for whatever reason, I woke up at 4:30 and doom scrolled for a while and then got up and went, you know what, let's just put an audiobook up, get some stuff done. And I was in at work very, very early with the audiobook on. I was done with the audiobook after a couple of morning hours listening and a couple of hours when I got home. So that was a brilliant life choice on that particular day. In terms of project books, I have read The Huntress by Bec McMaster. That vlog is hopefully going to be up either this week or next week. I was reading First Nations titles on the 26th of January, but a lot has happened since then that I'm still processing, and so I am not convinced that vlog is going to be edited at this point in time. But I did read 3 titles on that day. I read an incredibly beautiful picture book called One Race by Gregg Dreise. I highly recommend it. It is stunning. I read it to my staff when we returned to work. I've read it to a couple of classes and I'll be reading it to my class this coming week. I also read a middle fiction title, Brightest Wild by Tanya Crampton-Larking, which is a middle fiction book by First Nations author about a young girl who comes over to Australia from the UK. Her mother is engaged to an Australian man who has 2 children who are both Indigenous on their mother's side, and it is the relationship between Alex getting to know this new country, going to a new school, trying to get along and connect with her stepbrother, but also meeting her stepsister who doesn't live with them initially. It is about Australia's landscape. It is about the harshness of our seasons. There are bushfires that happen within the story. It's about connection and family and culture, and it is stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. I also read Murriyang, Song of Time by Stan Grant. This is a kind of memoir book. Stan Grant writes a lot about his personal experience. He is a former journalist from Australia. He's an Indigenous man and he is an incredible writer. In this book particularly, he is reflecting, one, on his religious faith. He studied theology, he is religious, and also his relationship with his father. And we're kind of juxtaposed with moments with his father who has had a stroke and at the time of writing still alive but living a very different life. And so Stan is reflecting on how that his relationship with his father has changed, not only over time but since his father had the stroke, and also Grant's religious belief and how that affects his life and everything that he's done in his life when he has been a journalist embedded overseas in war-torn countries, and when he's been back here, when he's been confronted with the racism of being an Indigenous man in Australia, which, again, horrible to read about, but so important to read about and to acknowledge that as a country, we are so far behind in doing the work that we need to do to treat our Indigenous people with the respect that everyone is entitled to. But this is a beautiful, beautiful book, really well written. Wasn't expecting it to have such a religious spin on it, but it was very interesting to read because, again, it's someone else's experience. It's not someone trying to convert anyone. It's just their experience and their connections and their beliefs, the way that they've thought through everything in their life. Then into things that I haven't talked about anywhere. So I did mention last week that I was reading Wild Dark by Catherine McConaghy, which I had as an audiobook out from Libby. This is a mystery, possibly thriller-ish, but not really. It's got little tiny threads of thriller-ish elements threaded through it, but it's more a mystery than anything else. It's also dystopian. So essentially, humans have destroyed the world because we're on that course, and we are following a family who live on a remote island south of Australia where there is a seed bank. We learn from the start that this family is fractured. It's a father and 3 kids, and something isn't quite right. We know the mother has passed away in the past. The father still talks to the mother, and the kids aren't connected in the same way to their father. At the very start of the book, a woman washes up on the shore, and they are able to save her life. And we the readers discover that she is on this island because her husband worked at the seed bank, but he's missing, and she doesn't know what's happened to him, and she doesn't trust the answers that she gets from the family. We also know that the seed bank is being closed down. The rest of the workers have left. The seed bank itself has lost power, and so they're trying to save as many of the seeds as they possibly can before eventually it heats up. At the moment, it's so cold that it's okay for the time being. But also, this island is slowly disappearing because of rising water levels. So it's a race against time to not only save the seed bank, but also for our female protagonist to figure out and find out what happened to her husband. She then falls for the father of the children. That is a very complicated relationship, and we learn some really terrible secrets of things that have happened to the kids and the people on this island. It was really well done. It was very atmospheric. I really loved it. It's kind of the right kind of setup for me, because remote islands, it's a thing. I also read Couture by Louisa Masters, which is the first full-length novel in her new Style Me series, which is a spin-off or features some characters that were mentioned in Batting Style. And in this case, we have a non-verbal fashion designer and a stylist. And the stylist initially doesn't have a great impression of our fashion designer because Phil isn't able to speak to him when he comes to visit. And so Griff, who is the stylist, thinks that he's just being rude because he doesn't understand. I didn't even get 20 minutes before the camera died, so this is going to be interesting. Anyway, it evolves so that Phil and Griff are spending more time with one another. Griff eventually understands what it means for Phil to be nonverbal and why that is the case, and the fact that he does talk, he just doesn't talk in particular situations, and they have to navigate that as their relationship develops. It's very sweet, and the way that they overcome their lack of understanding of one another is really interesting. There is a bit of a stalker plotline going in here. There is someone who has taken issue with some of the designs that Phil, whose company Fallacy is known for very cutting edge kind of designs. Someone takes issue with that and sends some very threatening things to Phil, which is very distressing for him and really sets off his anxiety. But it was great. Louisa Masters is she's a very consistent writer. I really enjoy her books. I love this cover design like it's a magazine. I think it is so cool, not only for the fact that this is a book about fashion or the fashion world, but it just looks really effective as a book cover. I also read Peaches and Pucks by M.A. Wardell. I did receive a review copy of this, and it is a queer hockey novella about Harry and Darius. So Harry and Darius both work at a school. One is an English teacher, one is the sports teacher / the ice hockey coach for the middle school boys team. And Harry, who is the English teacher, is not much of a sports person. He's had a really bad history with being queer and being at school and with jocks growing up. So he's chaperoning this team, but he doesn't get it. And he's forced into a couple of forced proximity situations with Darius, who is the coach, including an only one bed situation. And Harry doesn't know that Darius is queer, and it is the two of them navigating a relationship while working together and unpacking Harry's uncomfortableness with being queer in sports, but also Darius having to unpack that as well. There is quite a bit of lack of communication between these two. So there are elements that I really loved, like the skating lessons, and then there is the lack of communication and the constant need for the relationship to stop before they have a conversation, and not stop as in let's sit down and talk, but actually I'm going to walk away because I just can't deal with this in the moment. instead of talking. But on the whole, it was a very good story. It's the first M.A. Wardell story I've read. I've heard lots of good things about his writing, and this definitely shows that he's a great writer and he writes a lot about teachers. And there's plenty of pining in the book. So from that regard, like there were plenty of things that I liked. When there's a lack of communication, we know that it always just irritates me just a little bit. I also listened to the audiobook of Delicate Escape by Catherine Cowles, which is book 2 in, oh gosh, what's the series called? It's the Sparrow Falls series. There's too many books to talk about. This is what I'm looking forward to when I get to like one book a day. Who knows when that will be. So this is a small town romantic suspense series like all of Catherine Cowles' books. Thea is a young woman who lives in the town. Her history is a bit of a mystery to everyone. She doesn't have any technology. She likes being paid in cash for the work that she does, etc. So everyone knows that there's probably something up. They think that she's running from something, but they don't quite know what, and she isn't likely to share it. And Shep is one of the town's builders. He comes from a large family of children who were either the biological children or adopted foster children of a local family. So they're quite an extended family. He happens to find out that there's something wrong with Thea's house, and he offers to try and fix it for her because he wants to be her friend. He knows that there's obviously something going on. He recognizes that straight away, and he doesn't want to impose on her space because she's, like, when he offers that, she's quick to shut him down because she doesn't like anyone in her house. And we find out at the start of the book that she was previously in a relationship with someone quite famous, and he essentially ruined her life. He released footage of her that she didn't know he had access to, and used AI and things like that to basically put her on porn sites and put her phone number out to agencies and to basically run her name through the mud, destroy her credit rating, take all of her money, etc. And she fled. And so she's ended up in Sparrow Falls, where she's slowly rebuilding a life, building some friends and learning to trust people again. And Shep helps her break down those walls. Her ex is a total piece of work. He does appear in the book, so be mindful of that. But there's also other people in the story that, for whatever reason, have taken issue with Thea. So, I mean, for a romantic suspense book, like, I know what I'm getting with these books. I think I've talked about it before. I know exactly what I'm going to get, and it's easy to read. I also read Ashes by Claire Kent, which is the second book in the dystopian fairy tales series that sits alongside her other dystopian romances. This is a Cinderella retelling. We have Teresa, who, after the world has ended, was living with her father, who has married someone new. Her stepmother is a piece of work. Her stepsister is also a piece of work, and they basically use her as their personal maid for everything. But Teresa is quite clever in that she's discovered an old indoor market that hasn't been raided by anyone else. And she keeps finding these little trinkets. So she gives some of them to her stepmother and stepsister to sell at their town's market, but she keeps some of the best pieces for herself in case she ever needs to flee one day. And at the start of the book, her mother is going on and on about how her stepsister is going to be engaged to Mason, who is an eligible bachelor in the town. He has his own property. He is very self-sufficient, reasonably attractive, seems to be a nice guy. Meanwhile, Mason has no idea that this is happening and has no intention of marrying Teresa's stepsister. But one day Teresa has had enough and she has decided that she is going to run away. She sets off and is going to be taking a bus to one of the gated cities, and Mason happens to be heading that way as well. And so they travel together. Teresa goes to see her biological sister who had moved away and is married. But Mason gives her an option. She says, well, you can stay here if your sister's able to help you and that's what you want 100%. I won't tell anyone that this is what you've done. But another option is you can come and live with me. I'm happy to marry you. We can have a partnership. We can get to know one another. He's very clear to say that he has no intention of pressuring her into anything sexual, but he recognizes that she is very good at keeping a house tidy and can cook and is just a good person, and he needs a little bit of help to do some of those things so he can manage the farm, and that if she's interested in that kind of partnership where he won't take advantage of her, it's on the table. And in the end, she decides to go for it, which then, of course, throws her stepmother and stepsister into an absolute tizzy. And it's the two of them navigating this relationship, and both of them are very, very inexperienced in relationships. I think they might both be virgins. Anyway, I can't say that this was my absolute favourite Claire Kent book. I felt like Teresa was just a little bit too hesitant, and I like Claire Kent's characters when they've got a bit more spark in them. But it wasn't bad, and it was an easy read. and I'm slowly working my way through all of the dystopian romances and where they fit in this world. I also read Ziggy's Voice by Saxon James, which is the second book in the Wild Men series. We are following Kennedy, who is one of the brothers who has bought up a small rundown ghost town, and they're fixing it up, planning on flipping it and opening it for business. And Ziggy is an electrician who lives sort of in the wooded areas around the town. And these people who live in the forest are the people who've had to run away from their lives. They're running from lots of things, or they've just needed to find their own place away from society. And most of them are unhappy that the brothers are fixing up this town, but Ziggy is very intrigued by them. Ziggy also is nonverbal a lot of the time, and he has taken a liking to Kennedy, who he just sees as absolute sunshine. And Kennedy really enjoys Ziggy's company and doesn't pressure him to talk. Meanwhile, Ziggy is trying to figure out whether or not, this is a relationship that's going to be good for him. There is also a little bit of a mystery plot that's happening in this book. I really enjoyed it. It's Saxon James. Her writing is impeccable. And if people don't follow Saxon James, she's currently going through treatment for leukemia. And I know that she'll be surrounded by lots of family support and lots of friends, but I really do hope that everything's going well for her, because her stories have always brought me so much joy. This is the epitome of idiots to lovers, and it is delightful. All right, and then 2 very anticipated books. The first one being Beast Business by Ilona Andrews, which is a novella set in the Hidden Legacies world. It is book 6.5, and we are following Augustine, who is the head of House Montgomery. He owns a private investigative firm, and Diana, who is the head of House Harrison, which is Cornelius's sister. So Diana is an animal mage, which means she and her siblings connect and bond with animals. This novella was really interesting because there's also a section that is just about Arabella, which is the third of the Baylor sisters. And her section is great, but the chapter that we get from Arabella is just kind of her perspective of a scene that kind of takes place in the novella, and then a bunch of short stories that the Andrews posted on their website, so that we get some Arabella content because we don't have any full-length books about her. But Augustine and Diana's story is great. So Diana comes to Augustine. Their houses have a friendship contract, and she comes to him because her brother in a previous book had bonded to an arcane creature. So arcane creatures are creatures that have been drawn from an arcane realm by a mage. And theoretically, animal mages should not be able to bond with them because they're not animals from our world. But Cornelius did it. And Diana also got her hands on another arcane animal, and they're basically like arcane tigers. And these 2 tigers ended up having a cub, and that cub was stolen. And this is important because these creatures are magical creatures, and whoever has stolen this cub has not done it for altruistic reasons or because they want a cute tiger cub. They've done it because they want to test the magic, which basically means killing this baby cub, and Diana is not going to stand for that. And so she's come to Augustine for help to try and track down who exactly has the cub, and then she's planning on taking retribution and getting this cub back. And here's the thing, in the previous books, because we've met Augustine and Diana, we know that they're head of houses, and we know that every head of house is a very dangerous person. But the books have never focused on them, so we've never seen the true extent of their abilities. And when I tell you that I walked away from this going, I just want to stop and reread this book again right now, I will, because I've ordered the physical copy. It's coming next week, and I will be rereading it. These 2 are fabulous because we get the full extent of Augustine's powers. It's so good. And Diana, when Diana lets loose, she is one of my favorite characters, because she has so far been portrayed as very buttoned down, very stoic, very head of house. And in this, there are some scenes where she totally lets loose, and I am all here for it. It was fabulous. I really, really loved it, and I want more. Like, this is hinting at where their relationship is going to go. There is nothing concrete solidified in this. In fact, Augustine does something that really irritates the crap out of Diana by the end of the book. Give me more. I hate it when Ilona Andrews does this, because now I'm going to be waiting until I get more of this. And who knows when that's going to be. And lucky last on the book front, I finally did read Echoes of Insurrection by T.A. White. I read it on the 31st of January, so I did get it in before the end of the month. We have a live show next week, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it now, because we will have an in-depth discussion around the book. This is book 6 in the Firebird Chronicles series. It is a science fiction romance series. We are following Kira, who is a woman who was taken from her family from a very young age. She was experimented on, she was then raised by humans, and then has been reclaimed by the race of people that she was stolen from initially. She has gone through a lot of trials, and there's a lot that's happened in the first 5 books. In this particular book, she and the family that she is attached to are framed for trying to start a war. and one of the closest advisors to her uncle, who is the head of this family, has gone missing, and Kira has been explicitly told by the ruler of the race that she is not to go after them. But her uncle, the head of her house, has basically said, this is the exact wording that our ruler gave, and this is what we're going to do because we're going to get around that. And so she sets off on this mission to try and figure out what has happened. Meanwhile, Graydon, who is her love interest and is one of the advisors of the Overlord, who is the ruler of the race, has sent him on a similar mission, and they're not supposed to have contact at all because Graydon's loyalty is beginning to be called into question between his relationship with Kira and his connection to the Overlord. And the whole thing is just delightful. I will say, like, in all honesty, this book felt like the slowest of all the 6 books that we've read so far, so it took a little bit longer to get through it. I think some of the pacing was missing in this book. But honestly, I'm just so attached to these characters now that I just give me everything. And Finn, who is Kira's personal bodyguard, is one of my favourite characters in the whole series. I need more of Finn. And as we said in the group chat, I think Finn and Talon, who is another one of Kira's bodyguards, need a side quest just with the 2 of them, because they're very different kinds of characters, and all of their interactions are hilarious in this book, and I just want more, as always. So there's that. So those are all the books that I've read. As for what's coming up this week, as I said, I'm going to be reading The Queen, so I'm going to be finishing off that reading vlog. I'm also hoping to film the Buzzword vlog this week, so I do have some ideas for books, but I just need to double check that they fit the prompts. Yeah, then I'll just be reading whatever the hell I want to read, because that's where I am in my reading journey at the moment. So stay tuned. I don't know what will be in the next reading vlog. Hopefully it will not be 18 books because that's a lot of books to review, and this video is going to be hella long to edit. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you read any of the books I've talked about, or are you planning on picking any of them up? Feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'd love to hear what you have been reading over the last 7 days, or 8 days, because technically I did an 8-day wrap up. Moving on. If you just want to let me know that you're here, but don't leave a comment, feel free to leave a book stack emoji. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're on the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.